But she said her clocks don't work. Well, I don't believe that.
Well, today is December 30th.
Yeah.
And it's 2009. Right. And you're Margaret
Yeah,
Longenberger.
Yeah.
And
I tell you.
your maiden name was?
My maiden name was Robinson.
Robinson.
And then I married Merrill Fessenden, and he died in 66. And then I married Wilmer Longenberger in 68, and he died in 71 in January.
Oh my.
He only lived a little over 2 years.
Oh my goodness.
And so I've been a widow a long time.
A lot of times, yeah.
And he only had
30 some years,
Yeah,
over 30,
yeah.
almost 40.
Yeah. And
Wow.
I was playing golf one time after Bill died, and we were talking as we walked along, and this woman said to me, "You don't act like a widow." I thought, how am I supposed to act?
How am I supposed to act? Yeah.
Am I supposed to dump all my problems on you?
Did you grow up in Kent?
No, I grew up, oh boy, I was born in Akron.
Thank you.
Just briefly, and my dad worked for one of the rubber companies, and he only had 6 years of schooling. His mother died, he had to quit school, but he was pretty smart, and he worked in a rubber shop. Well, then somebody talked him into buying a farm in Charleston, Ohio, and he went down there with the brother-in-law saying, "We'll share our tools." Well, the brother-in-law moved out the next year, and there was Dad with no help and a farm, so he traded it for a farm in Edinburgh.
Okay.
He had 119 acres, had a big maple grove, and a little house, and we lived there
That was where you grew
for
up.
quite a while. And then when I was getting ready to go to high school, my brothers had left home because they were finished. Edinburgh only had 3 years of high school, and then they had to go someplace for the rest of the schooling. Roy came here, and Glenn went up around. I don't know. I'm going to say Shalersville up there someplace, and so then Dad traded his big farm for a little one, 19 acres. It had a lot of fruit on it, and they lived there. He died while they were living there, and then my mother sold the house and moved to Ravenna into a retirement home, and she lived to be 96. My dad lived to be 92.
Wow.
But I have a sister-in-law who, my oldest brother's widow, she's 101.
Wow. So you're going to outlive your parents.
I don't know. I don't know.
I bet you do.
But the sister-in-law is losing her memory.
Yeah.
I think that kind of happens, don't you?
Well, we all lose portions.
But your
of that.
mother used to live up here.
Well, she lived on Park Avenue.
I thought so.
Right.
I remember. Yeah.
Do you remember the bowling alleys?
Yes.
Did you bowl?
No.
No?
Well, a little bit, but not much.
Okay.
And where did you grow up?
In New York City.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, in the Bronx, in New York City.
Yeah.
And the best thing that ever happened to me was moving here.
You've been here quite a while.
Yeah, I've been here over 40 years.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I came here in the fall of 1969,
Oh,
right before the shootings.
Henry Hallam is who we're talking to.
But you know,
Right.
I like Kent,
Oh, and I'm Jim White.
and I have a lot of help. If I can stay here with help, that's what I want to do.
Good.
Because I have a woman that cleans my house every other week, and I have a man that mows my lawn.
Good.
He just drives by. If it needs it, he mows, and he sends me the bill. And Keith Evans lives out in Edinburgh, and he does a lot of repair things.
Oh, good.
You know him?
No.
Yeah.
It's good to know somebody that can repair
He
things.
can do anything. And if I call him, he'll say, "Okay, I'm coming into town. I'll stop by." Yeah.
Good.
But then I had a couple of bad falls this past year.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And so this leg, I went out here to the Crystal Clinic. They said, "This is gone here.
Ooh.
This right here is gone completely." so I have to use a cane, and I'm careful about my walking.
You're still getting to church on occasion.
Well, sometimes. I took the church bus the last couple times, and they've been calling me ever since. You want to ride today? But I always been kind of that way about going to church when it's cold. Not really enthused about that.
Did you have a job? Did you work when you became a widow?
Oh my gosh, I worked all my life.
That's what I thought. I wanted to hear about it.
I was thinking this morning, we were living in Edinburgh. Let's see, no, it was after we moved to Ravenna. And a woman said that she needed some help in the summertime, and I was 15. I made $2 a week. I walked over to their place, and she said, I'll get it'll be 5 days. But I had to wash all the dishes before I left on my day off, and then I walked home, but I had to get back to do the evening dishes. I made $2 a week.
Oh boy.
Saved $15 that year. I was getting ready to go to school. I bought a skirt. Well, you probably had those kind of things too, didn't you?
And how?
Yeah, everybody has something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's my dad would just say, just be glad for what you have. Don't complain about what you don't have.
Well, what did your dad do?
Well, he was a farmer.
Farmer.
He was a farmer
Yeah,
most of the
couple
time, and I
farms.
remember him, And he never complained. Yours probably didn't either.
No, your dad's name again.
Robinson, Henry Robinson.
Henry Robinson.
Mm-hmm. And he used to be a man in Ravenna that was Henry Robinson. Dad used to get his mail every once in a while.
Popular name.
But Dad was a pretty good farmer. Made lots of maple syrup in the spring, and had apples and stuff on the farm too. I don't
When
know.
you moved to Ravenna or to Kent, did you have a
he
job of any kind?
We moved from Akron to Charleston. They was only there about a year.
Mm-hmm.
And then from Charleston, they moved to Edinburgh. And they were there till 1930, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And then he traded that place for a place in Kent because he didn't have any help then.
Mm-hmm.
And he lived there until he died. And then, I'm the only one left in the family now. My brothers are both gone,
Mm-hmm.
and my sister.
Mm-hmm.
But both my parents, my father, I went out there on Friday, and I said, Dad, you want to go get some ice cream? He said, yeah, and he disappeared. When he came back, he's all dressed in nice slacks and a new shirt. I said, Dad, we're just going to the ice cream parlor. He said, I didn't want to look tacky. And and you know that Sunday morning, Mom went out to call him for church, and he had his own bedroom. He died.
Wow. Shock.
And she stayed here with me twice. The last time she was here a month. Remembered all about her West Virginia life and what she did.
Wow.
And my brother, and when the day she left here, she went home and she baked a pie and made a casserole because she was sure somebody would come. My brother went with his wife. About 11 o'clock, she was sitting at the telephone. She died.
Wow.
Oh my.
They both died suddenly and
Died.
peacefully.
Just never had to go for special care or anything.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
But her memory, and his too, that's the important part, is the memory, don't you think?
Oh, I do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it just, she was great. She'd sit there and I had a rocking chair there. She'd sit there and eat her rolled oats in the morning and talk about West Virginia.
How long have you lived in Kent? How
In
many
Kent?
years? Yes.
I came here in 1934
34.
when I got out of school.
Mm-hmm.
And I worked for, my brother had a barber shop here in Kent for a little while. And I worked for a restaurant. It was Depression time.
Mm-hmm.
I made $1 a day, and I got one meal. And we lived right over here with Herb Miller.
Now, was Herb Miller, he wasn't the one that had the lock works.
Now, he had the car thing where he took people
Okay.
on thing. He parked down by this, I think by pretty close to the bridge.
Oh, I remember.
Was it 25 cents any place in town? Something
Yeah,
like
he had a
that.
cab service.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. He had a beautiful place up here. His lawn was always so pretty.
Mhm.
And I stayed there for quite a while. My sister came, then we paid $3 a week for the room.
Oh.
How long you lived here?
Since 31.
And you?
Since 69.
69.
69. Yeah.
We add up to a lot of years, don't we?
Yeah.
Do you remember when you were shopping downtown Kent? I was looking through a list of merchants recently, and I thought, oh, they're all gone.
Yeah, that's
Do
right.
you remember where you'd shop?
Oh, sure. After I worked at that restaurant, not quite a year, my sister-in-law worked at the A&P, and the man that owned it,
Was it McIntyre?
McIntyre.
Mac, we call
No,
it.
not McIntyre. Shoot, I can't remember names anymore. But anyway, my sister-in-law worked there, and she was pregnant. She said, Margaret, I think you could have my job. Meeker. Bob's.
Oscar? Oscar Meeker.
Yeah, Oscar Meeker.
Yes.
And I went over there and worked. And then they moved over here on Gauber. The MP moved over there, and McIntyre got the job.
Okay.
And
Mac, I remember.
yeah, and then I worked there, and then they moved down where the old
Hardware.
store was across from there. It was a telephone next door or across the street, and I worked there.
So you worked in the A&P as it made
Yeah.
several moves.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then I moved, I quit for a while, and then they'd call and they'd say, would you please come back? I'd go back for a while. But McIntyre was great to work for. Did you know him?
No.
He was such an outgoing, genial person.
This was
smile
when I came here, the A&P was where the hardware store
Sure.
was. So we used to shop there. That's where the A&P was. And it was there for only, I think, a couple of 3 years in the
It
early
may have been when
70s.
Mac was about retiring.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Mac was very fair with his help. You know, he always supported his help. That was the one thing I found.
Yeah.
And he called me after I quit. He called me around holiday time. He said, hi, Marky. And his wife had died. He said, why don't you come over and have a drink? And then he said, oh, hell, you don't drink. And I didn't.
So you didn't go over?
No, I didn't go.
Do you remember some of the other businesses that were in town at that time?
Remember Gensimers or?
There was you could
Style
get downtown in Kent at that time and buy anything you needed: shoes, clothes. You know, there was bakeries, there was groceries. You remember any of that?
I do.
Yeah, sure.
I remember them all.
Yeah, you could.
Even a couple drugstores.
Yeah, yeah, right. You were in one of them, weren't you? Yeah. There's been a lot of changes. We used to. My husband had an aunt lived up the street, and she was a widow, and I would take her to the store on Saturday. She'd love to go. She'd take her little basket, and we could go all around and get some baked goods and something else, you know, get all her shopping. Yeah.
Well, and the fire
Yeah.
was an impact. The big fire on the
Yeah.
whole block.
Yes, I remember that.
And that was the France block at
Yes.
one time.
But I think that the town is picking up now, don't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
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 Oh, downtown's is busy.
Yeah.
Do you remember the France family? Were you any way connected
France?
With the Frances, Jim France, or any of those? No.
Uh-uh.
The Fessendens were in some way.
Uh-huh.
Somewhere there was a relationship between the Fessendens and the Frances, and I wondered if you were aware of that.
Well, pheasants were scattered around quite a bit, you know.
You gave us several things for the Historical Society.
I have a...
Thank you. I don't know if you remembered any of these.
Yeah.
I don't have a lot of old stuff.
Well, you gave the Historical Society several things. And you gave me a whole box of things.
Yeah, I remember.
And even belonged...
This is written about the Fessendens.
Oh.
And that's really a keeper.
I've never seen
But
that.
they came from England. And that is a story. The story is fiction, but the characters are all Fessendens.
Oh.
And this year, those plates on the wall are 12 of them are based on chapters in that book.
Wow. Why don't you have your seat again, Margaret, since we're
I'm all right.
Well, we're taking your picture, too.
Oh.
Aunt May and Uncle George.
Uh-huh.
Men of Kent.
I have
This is
loads of books.
Okay, English Civil War. I see. And then the Fessendens are the subject in here. Well, that isn't something that she was aware of. She turned over these items.
My son-in-law is a ceramic
Potter.
He brought me bowls. So I told him I wanted to put nuts in them for people, you know. He made all of those.
Right.
He has loads and loads of pottery. This one's pretty.
Yeah.
So, a little bit of everything. And now you have a daughter.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
She lives in New Orleans.
Oh, does she?
Yeah, she just moved down to New Orleans.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, she works at the Tulane.
Okay.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. You go down to see her?
No, we haven't. She just moved there. We're going to go down there, I think, in March.
Oh. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Oh, I hope the weather's good.
Well, it usually is, and it's pretty warm there.
Uh-huh.
Hopefully.
Yes.
I don't know. When Marilyn and Bruce and Chelsea came this past week, it took them 2 hours to get out of Washington. The traffic was so bad.
Yeah.
And
Well, that storm that hit there was severe.
but they like it down there.
Mm-hmm.
Marilyn works for Bloomingdale's, and she works in the office. But when she went down there, she had just graduated from college, and she found out that what she had on her resume, some of them that they wanted, she didn't have. She would have to go back to school. And Bruce had a job. He was teaching at a school, but they found out that it cost a lot more to live down there. So the rent was $900 and something when they first went, and it kept going up.
Are they in Virginia?
So Marilyn went to Bloomingdale's and got hired to sell pots and pans.
Do they live out in Virginia?
They
Yeah.
no, they live in
Maryland?
Silver Spring, Maryland.
Maryland.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Nice area.
But, you know, it's fun to go there if you know somebody that knows their way around.
Yeah. Particularly in Washington.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went to school there.
Did you?
Yes, I went to George Washington University.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I did graduate work there, and so I lived there for a few years.
I love going there if you're with somebody that says, well, we'll go see this, we'll go see that.
Yeah.
You know, there's lots to see there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure is.
Uh-huh. And my granddaughter works for, it's like Coleman Center. It's called RAIN. and they deal with women's problems.
I see.
And she's in fundraising. That's a big deal anymore, isn't it?
Oh, is it ever?
Do you ever get so many requests of please help?
I've got a stack like that.
Yeah.
You keep shifting them
Yeah.
as to which one I'm going to give to.
Yeah. Oh, I tell you, I get so many of those. What they do? They pass those names around or what?
I think they do. Sure. They sell them.
Yeah. And your wife?
Organizations do.
Does your wife work?
No, she did. She worked at the university. Sally did. And then she decided to retire. Yeah, she enjoyed it there.
Yeah, that's a good job.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was the
The
secretary.
university's about all we have that's going good, isn't it?
Well, I mean, some of the businesses are doing okay.
They're picking up, that's
Yeah.
for sure. I wish that they could decide about the hotel, but let's see. Yeah. There isn't any parking there.
Yeah.
That's a problem, isn't
Right.
it?
Right.
Uh-huh.
And it's in such a deteriorated condition that it would cost a fortune to redo it.
Yeah.
Maybe more so than tearing it down and building anew.
Yeah, I think it's beyond
You know, like you said, there was a time you could downtown and do your own shopping down there.
Mm-hmm.
And,
You remember the grocery stores downtown?
Yeah, there was one on the corner, right beside the old
Post office.
where the A&P was across the street on that corner. That was an independent store. There was an A&P there on the pretty close to that corner at one
Right.
time too.
Longcoys.
That's where McIntyre was.
Longcoys were diagonally
Uh-huh.
across the street.
And there was a bakery down there on the left-hand side going out.
I think Klein's was there also.
That's right.
And there was when I first.
Klein's is what I meant.
Yeah.
Longcoys was
Yeah,
on the street.
yeah, exactly.
And Nifels. Nifels had one on Northwater Street.
Sawyer,
Uh-huh.
which goes back further.
Yeah.
And the Shetler Market wasn't that long ago. That's where that was on the corner of Crane, Lake, Northwater.
Okay. I remember that store was there.
It had a lot of different owners.
Uh-huh.
Now it's a pet store.
I think when I first came to Kenty, this corner down here was an A&P store. A small A&P store.
Where the building they tore down,
Yeah.
where Cass
McKay Bricker was in there.
McKay
I
Yeah.
remember it
Uh-huh.
when the
And-
brother of the guy that owned Triangle Garage had a shop in there that sold televisions.
Oh yeah. What
Osborne.
was his name?
Yeah,
I can't
Osborne.
remember.
the Osborne family. And they lived on Rockwell. And then his brother had the
Triangle
car
repair, where I
repair.
got my car repaired.
Yeah.
He was a
Oh,
hell
he
of a
was-
guy.
oh, he
Little
was-
short guy.
Just great mechanic. He always did
He
my
was
work too.
Terrific.
Yeah, the Osborne.
Been a lot of changes in this town.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
I think this was all residential here. And you've been here a long time too, I know.
Yeah. How do you feel about what they're doing here?
Yeah.
The bridge.
The bridge, and
Yeah.
do you like the idea of what they're doing? They're putting a big gas station up, and
Well, I'm not excited about it, but then Marilyn said, Mom, since you're not driving anymore, it'll be great for you. She said Sheets has a little market. You can get a loaf of bread,
That's right.
quart of milk, whatever you want.
Yes, they
She
do.
said it might be handy for you, and it's going to make a lot of changes. I don't know where they're going to put the entrances and, you know, how it's going to work. What do you think?
well, on the one hand, I like the idea. I think it's an improvement for the neighborhood, but I don't like how Sheets builds things.
Yeah,
They're very garish,
yeah,
and the bright lights
yeah.
are, I think, problematic. So it's kind of a yes and no situation as far as I'm concerned.
I would just soon they didn't come myself, but they didn't
Yeah.
take me. They didn't ask me.
They must think it's a good idea, or they wouldn't be investing.
Yeah, and I think probably Croc got a pretty good price out of that corner. He owned that whole corner,
Yeah.
clear up to the alley, and he was such a good man
Yes.
for us, you know.
Yeah, he was a nice fellow.
A good mechanic.
Oh, yes.
You know, if I had, I'm not too bright about cars. If I had trouble with the car, I'd walk over and he'd say, "Okie dokie, Mrs. Longenberger." But he was, then he'd bring the car back, put it in the garage.
Oh, he would?
Yeah, sometimes come in, chat for a while.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Well, he's moved to near the university now on Main Street.
He had owned that before.
Yes,
He
he
owned,
had a partner that ran that.
But, it was nice to have him over there.
Yeah.
It just,
Is that the
that
one
was
across
nice
from
neighbor.
Firestone?
Yes, exactly.
He had a little man that worked for him that lived in a mobile home out towards Ravenna.
Oh, really?
That was one of his mechanics.
Uh-huh.
And I used to take cookies over to him every once in a while. And last time he said, "You know, I think we're going to divorce my wife and marry you." And I said, "I think you'll be sorry."
The cookies did it, though.
But they love cookies. Yeah. But Tim Crock was a good man over there.
Yeah.
I hate to see him leave.
Do you still cook?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Who taught you to cook?
But what do I cook?
Who taught you to cook?
Mom.
Mm-hmm.
And my daughter loves to cook. When they came home, she fixed a whole dinner for Christmas.
Oh, wonderful.
Roasted the turkey and made sweet potato. Oh, those good sweet potatoes. She didn't give me the recipe, but I'll have to get it. Had nuts in it and all kinds of stuff in it. Yeah. And when you live on a farm, you cook what you raise. You know. I guess.
Yeah.
I think.
Do you remember the doctors that lived in town growing up, needing a doctor, who the doctors were?
Do you remember who you went to? Dr. Painter, Dr. Meacham, Voorhees?
I don't remember going to doctors very often.
Well, lucky you.
Yeah.
I went to dentist.
Who was that?
Uh,
Do you recall?
uh,
Was it Reniff? Dr. Reniff, or?
Might have been. I can't remember names very well.
Mhm.
But I just went the dentist now.
Marsh? Dr. Marsh? Gordy.
I had a partial, and the tooth broke off that was holding it. And I went down. He said, "Well, I think we can fix that." By gosh, he did. And pulled that tooth, put another false one in, put back on my partial. And then when I got that done, he said, "I'm going to take you home now." He did. I said, "Partial, take me home." He said, "No, I'm going to take you home."
Good. How long have you been a member of the Methodist Church in Kent?
70 years.
70 years. Wow.
Yeah. And 2 in Ravenna before I came here. I joined when I was, a teenager. Yeah, I've been going.
Who were the ministers?
Ministers?
Wow.
Oh, dear Lord.
See if you can remember that.
Well, I remember Henderson.
Pearson.
Robinson?
Yeah.
Hope Johnson?
I can't remember who all. When I first joined the Methodist Church, it was down here on Water Street.
Main.
Yeah.
On
Did
Main.
you go there?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
That was when I joined as a teenager.
I'm terrible with names so anymore. I'll tell you the truth, I am. I know that.
Henderson.
Henderson.
Henderson
Yeah.
was a minister there too.
Yeah.
His son and I were friends.
There's been a lot of changes in that church too.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's a good church.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. I like our minister now.
I do too.
Do you?
Yep.
Do you ever hear him?
Palmer gives good sermons.
No. It's I'm not a very religious person. I'll leave it at that.
You don't have to be,
I mean,
sometimes it's the way you live.
Yes, I keep it in my heart. I'm not one to join.
Yeah.
I mean, when I was young, I was. My parents were. I mean, they were from children of immigrants, and so when I was young growing up.
I think religion is a choice, I don't care what religion it is. If it helps you, that's all. Yeah.
That's a good attitude.
Well, that's the way I feel about it. I have a nephew who now belongs to, what is the one that they have up in the north? Well, I can't remember that. But he left the Methodist Church and joined this group.
Is it the Mormon?
Mormon, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And he's been in Alaska for about 10 years or more, but he's moving back to the States now. And he'll be working here somewhere.
Is that a nephew, did you say?
Right?
A nephew?
He was a Methodist, yeah. Is that what you mean?
No, I meant his relationship to you.
Oh, yeah. The one that came here?
Right.
Yeah, my nephew.
Nephew.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
My sister had 2 boys, and they seem to do well, whatever they do. Sometimes they can't find a church close to them, you know, but they still have the faith.
Good.
And were you always a Methodist?
Always.
Were you?
Yep.
That must be the mailman.
I don't know about my parents, but
that's the
Yes,
mail.
it is.
No, I just saw a man go past the window. I feel sorry for the mailman, don't you?
Well, they have a job.
Yeah.
I mean, this
Yeah.
time to have a job
Uh-huh.
is very good. I think
Uh-huh.
people don't question their jobs like they used to.
That
anymore.
house that my daughter and husband lived in over there, is that sold or rented or?
I think it's sold. I don't think it's a rental.
Uh-huh.
I think it's sold.
Uh-huh.
Although I haven't paid attention,
Uh-huh.
there aren't that many rentals on the block anymore.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Um,
Well, that house was old, because I know the basement was very small.
yeah.
It was just partly dug out.
it was part of the upper village.
Uh-huh.
Yes, most of the houses on Carthage are
Carthage,
very old.
uh-huh.
It's one of the oldest streets in Kent.
Is that right?
It was originally called Canal Street, and it was
Oh,
the only
really?
it was the only street that went up to Hudson Road, and then
Uh-huh.
there was Canal Street, which became
I didn't know
Carthage,
that.
and then they built the other when they started
Uh-huh.
building homes.
Uh-huh.
So it's some of those homes there are very old. Yeah, I mean the house next to mine was owned by Lester Munsenmeyer. Do you remember him?
The name is familiar, but
I
I
do.
can't put a face
I
with
remember
it.
the name
Uh-huh.
and the fact that he owned a lot of properties.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
He owned a lot of property where the university is. He
Okay,
gave,
okay.
for where music and speech is, he gave
Uh-huh.
that land to the
Uh-huh.
university.
Uh-huh.
So, and I remember him. He was in his 90s when I bought my house
Oh,
from
really?
him. Yes.
Uh-huh.
And he moved out to Arizona.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So, did you know him?
No,
No.
I didn't know him. I worked down here at this little open pantry for a while. On
North.
right down here, and it's now a wine store.
Okay.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
I do too.
I remember that.
Uh-huh. I was held up while I worked there.
Oh,
Tell us about that.
Well, there was just 2 women. We worked 4 in the afternoon to midnight. And the girl that was working with me went back to fill the milk and so forth, getting it ready for closing time. And I was running a register. And I had just checked a man out that had come up to school to take a night course of some kind, and he lived in Cleveland, so he stopped to get something to eat to kind of tide him over. And this black man, 2 of them came in. One stood at the door, one came up the register and said, "Give me the money." And he didn't know we had silent alarms in our pockets. So I rang my silent alarm, and then he said, "Move, bitch." He wanged me over the head with a gun. And I gave him the money. But you know, Sam Sullivan was a really smart man. He had a little safe underneath the counter, and you got some big bills you put down there. So they only got around $135 or something. I gave them the money, and they left before the police got there. And but a customer came to the door, and he knocked, and I said, "I can't let you in." And he said, "But I saw something." And he saw what kind of a car they got into, and they went up towards Streetsport, and they called the police up there, and they caught him before they got to the turnpike.
Wow.
Yeah. and they had thrown that bag out on the way. They threw that bag out because they felt there was something wrong, something going on. And somebody going along was going to work up there and saw that bag laying along the street and picked it up and went to work. When he opened it up, it had money in it. He knew it was connected with something.
They threw the money away.
Threw the whole thing out because they must have felt that something about this wasn't right.
The evidence.
Mm-hmm. But
did you ever have to appear in court?
Oh yeah, yeah. And I had a break in here while I was gone to Maryland's for Christmas, and the neighbor, George Watkins. I don't know if you know George Watkins, David Watkins. They live on the next street over, and their back windows look out on my back. And David got up to get a drink of water, and he saw the men breaking in.
Wow. So he called the police.
So he called us. He called us down in Washington.
Oh my!
And then Marilyn said, "Well, we don't have the number of the telephone for the police," but she finally got it. And as they left, they were walking down the driveway, and the police came this way and caught them. One of them ran up the alley and fell down. And they had to go to court for that, too.
How long ago were these two incidents? The hold-up, was that 20, 30 years ago?
I was working for Sam when I was held up. And I don't think I was working when
you were
broke in here. Mm-hmm. They just broke in that back door.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember when your daughter's house was robbed?
Yes, I remembered that. Yes, She was going to turn on television. It was gone. She was working down to the restaurant.
They broke into our house that same night.
Oh, did they?
Yes, I remember talking to your daughter and son-in-law about it. And your son-in-law and daughter were home.
He was home, and he took a little girl and went up to bed.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they broke in while he didn't even know.
They were upstairs sleeping.
Wow.
Yeah.
I can tell you that story later.
So Marilyn was working down there at the restaurant, and when she come home, she thought she'd watch television. No television. But yeah, I don't know. You can't say what you're going to have to do. So, I lock my doors now.
Mm-hmm.
And
as you should.
And I wear a lifeline.
Good.
And they have the combination of my door. I have a combination lock.
You know, one of those little books that you gave us, and I don't think you knew where they came from. They were little diaries. One was 1869. The other was 1899. And then there was another little book, and it appeared as though whoever owned that book owned a lot of properties, because there were combinations in there for various rooms in various buildings.
I didn't read those books.
It was fascinating. This little book here.
Well, I'm glad if you liked them.
Oh, well.
Wow.
That one with the red cover, that one is a prize because that's mine.
Mm-hmm.
And it tells about the family coming from England.
The Fezzians.
Mm-hmm. So a girl gave me that was part of the family. She used to come and visit me once in a while. She was a retired teacher over in the East, and she gave me that book. But that, I thought my daughter would like that. Mm-hmm. It tells all what they were when they were in England. The characters were real people, but the story was a fiction.
Your daughter was the daughter of Mr. Longenberger?
No. Pheasant.
Mr. Pheasant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This is fascinating.
We've been here a long time.
Yeah. But a good time.
Yeah. But you know, we lived next door for 24 years.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, we lived, Buck's father built that. And then during tough times, he lost it. He owned a car place over on the corner there by the railroad tracks. He owned that for a while.
Was it a car dealership?
It was a car dealer. And
what kind of cars did he sell? Do you remember?
I can't tell you, but he told me that one of the people that was a salesman for him took a car out that was on display. Money was so tight that he couldn't pay for that car till he sold it, and then he'd pay the dealer. And this man that was working for him took it out and wrecked it.
Oh.
And that was the final thing for Buck's father.
Financially, it was collapsed then.
Yeah. And so he took this house next door, and his brother-in-law bought it. And he said, if you ever want it back, if you could pay me what I paid for it, you can have it back. But he didn't live that long. Mm-hmm. And so...
How did you happen to come to this house then?
Well, then we rented. When we lived over there, we just rented. Mm-hmm. And this house was built by a relative.
This is 416 Fairchild.
Uh-huh. And Blanche Ewing was the aunt. She lived up the street. And she asked if, this was all one lot here. These two lots were all one. And so she asked if she could build a bungalow on this half of it. And she did. She built this house. And she came down here, they told me, and lived a month and didn't like it. And moved back up to her own house. And then, and we were renting over there. And Buck would say, Blanche, sell us that house. She'd just laugh. And ever so often he'd say, why don't you sell Margaret and I that house? It's a good size for us. So it just laughed. Oh, one time she said, I'll sell it to you for $12,000. And Buck said, no, you won't. Only cost you $4 to build it. And when she died, she gave it to us.
Oh.
She gave it. Then we remodeled it.
How nice.
Yeah, yeah.
She obviously liked you very much.
And Ivy Merrill was related to us, the downtown, and she owned several homes.
Well, I saw the Merrill name in one of these books.
Did you?
And it might have been the one that had the combinations in it.
I don't know.
No,
Here.
That's it. I thought somewhere in there there's the safe, how you open the safe combination. And then these appeared to be combinations.
All the people had combination locks.
Miller locks.
Miller locks.
Did you know J.B. Miller? The Miller Lock Company, J.B. Miller.
Well, I wouldn't know him personally.
I see.
But the only one we have is on the front door now.
Yes.
But at one time they were all combination locks.
Yes.
I grew up with combination locks.
They were made here, weren't they?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, that.
But I gave away some books. I used to take my trash out there on what was it? One by where you took your trash.
Oh yeah.
And that man loved books. So every time I went, I'd take him some old books. But I have loads and loads of books.
His name was Swigert.
Was it?
Mr. Swigert. Well, he ran the dump or the trash yard for a good many years.
Here comes a book lady, he'd say. But I have a lot of books that I haven't read. Have you?
Oh, I got lots of books that I haven't read.
Do you read them?
Oh, I try. I get started on them, and then if I like them, but if I don't, I'll stop partway through. J.B. Miller.
And that's where he used to live in
My gosh, you people know more about Kent than anybody I know. Yeah. You know more about town than anybody.
I'm not
How
so
long
sure.
did you have that store down there?
Well, I worked there 50 years, but
How
about
many?
50. But about the last 10, I was the owner, the principal owner, and I was a part owner for about 35 of those years.
Right.
Yeah,
when you were there.
When Merrill Thompson was there, and when Charlie Young was there. And I became a partner of theirs eventually.
Oh my gosh.
after working for them.
So now you're involved in the history of town.
Oh, I love the Historical Society. Yeah. We're a very going concern right now.
Yeah.
We got great leadership. Henry's wife.
Are they thinking
Sandy.
of going into a bigger place?
Oh, we'd hope to, but you know, that takes a lot of money
Yeah.
and sustaining income.
Right.
But
Exactly.
where we are is a good location for now.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I keep thinking that the post office would,
Well, that's what everyone's thinking.
but whether we could ever swing that.
There's stuff upstairs that I probably should part with, but I haven't yet.
Well, when the day comes, if you haven't found somebody in your family that wants it, the Historical
A lot of
Society
they
is always
don't.
interested.
Well, Marilyn was here a
Yeah.
week ago. I said, if there's anything here you want, take it now.
Yeah.
And she came up with a coal bucket. And, and it was kind of a sort of glossy thing. They didn't have room for it in the car. So she left that.
But that was when we used to have coal furnaces.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's kind of a bronzy color, and she was going to polish that up.
Yeah.
And
Did you have to help make the fire in the furnace?
No.
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 The men did that.
No.
Mhm.
But no, I didn't. I never did that.
I was surprised you remembered my mother. Did you remember
Yes,
my
I
father?
remember where she lived.
Yeah. Did you remember my father? Did you at the bowling
No,
alley?
I don't remember him. But upstairs, if you got time, you go up there. There's a doll that said on it that I bought that when they had the first thing downtown where they celebrated the.
Oh, this.
Yeah. You have those?
One of the centennials. No, I don't. I don't know.
There's a
about
doll
that.
up there. There's some old books up there. There's some bed pillows made stuffed with real feathers up there. If you ever have use for those, take them. You know.
Well, anything that has some history with regards to Kent is always interesting.
Yeah.
And some of the things that people donate to us, they aren't related to Kent. And
Yeah.
unless they're period pieces that go with some of our displays, then they're just excess. And at some
I
point
have
you
a-
run out of storage room.
A Victrola up there with the thick records.
Oh, yes.
And there's a lot of other stuff up there.
We all collect it.
We have a Victor talking machine that can play those old records. So if you want to,
If you have any of the...
if you have any of those old records, we can use those.
Well, Marilyn once tried to price around and see if they could sell the record player. Now, there's only that worked great when I got it, and I don't remember now who gave it to me. But then it got so that arm would play so far and then it'd drift back, you know, and it needs a little repair.
How old is it?
I have no. Go up and look at it. Go up and look at it. It's right upstairs. Here, come on.
Okay, let me just shut this off here.
But she said her clocks don't work. Well, I don't believe that.
Well, today is December 30th.
Yeah.
And it's 2009. Right. And you're Marguerite?